Welcome back, friends. Another big hour of Friday Live on this first Friday in November 3rd. I'm Jim.
And this is Cheryl. And what a beautiful fall day it is.
Yes, a lovely autumn day.
Yeah, the leaves are swirling, and there's just a little bit of a nip in the air.
And a lot of them are off the trees, though.
I know.
Yeah. And then you got to rake them. Although here we don't rake them. At the radio station, we just let nature do what nature does.
The Holy Spirit takes over. They'll blow where they will.
Yeah. But it is a lovely, lovely, lovely autumn day.
Gorgeous.
So. Well, this hour we have our gospel reading for the 31st Sunday in Ordinary Time, and our reflection today is by Dr. Scott Hahn. And then a little later on, we're going to talk with Joseph Gonzalez. He and his wife have written a book called Guadalupe and Flower World Prophecy. And I've never heard of that, but Joseph is going to tell us all about that. And he himself, Mr. Gonzalez, is a very successful composer. And another thing that he mentions, and we'll ask him about it as well, is that when Saint Juan Diego first went to Tepeyac Hill, they said he was surrounded with beautiful music. And I didn't know that.
Yes.
Okay. So.
And there's something that in the tilma itself, now I forget what it is. Well, we're just going to wait for the expert. Mm-hmm. But there was a definite connection with music embedded somehow. So
interesting. So we'll get to that a little later on this hour. And but first, we will have our gospel reading for this Sunday, the 31st Sunday in Ordinary Time.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus spoke to the crowds and to his disciples, saying, "The scribes and the Pharisees have taken their seat on the chair of Moses. Therefore, do and observe all things whatsoever they tell you, but do not follow their example. For they preach, but they do not practice. They tie up heavy burdens, hard to carry, and lay them on people's shoulders. But they will not lift a finger to move them. All their works are performed to be seen. They widen their phylacteries and lengthen their tassels. They love places of honor at banquets, seats of honor in synagogues, greetings in marketplaces, and the salutation Rabbi. As for you, do not be called Rabbi. You have but one teacher, and you are all brothers. Call no one on earth your father. You have but one Father in heaven. Do not be called Master. You have but one Master, the Christ. The greatest among you must be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, but whoever humbles himself will be exalted." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
We all wish we could live in the perfect family, in a peaceful home. Maybe we once believed that it was a home like we saw on television, but that's not the kind of family we were made for. God has made us for something far better. Find out more next on Breaking the Bread. Though they were Moses' successors, the Pharisees and scribes exalted themselves and made their mastery of the law like a badge of social privilege and power. Worse, they lorded the law over the people. Like the priests the prophet Malachi condemns in this Sunday's first reading, they caused many to falter and to close themselves off from God. In a word, Israel's leaders failed to be good spiritual fathers of God's people. Moses, on the other hand, was a humble father figure, preaching the law but also practicing it, interceding and begging God's mercy and forgiveness for the sins of the people. And Jesus reminds us today that all fatherhood, in the family or in the people of God, comes from our Father in heaven. He doesn't mean we're to literally call no man father. He himself referred to Israel's founding fathers as fathers. The apostles teach about natural fatherhood and describe themselves as spiritual fathers. The fatherhood of the apostles and their successors, the priests of the church and the bishops, is a spiritual paternity given to raise us as God's children. These spiritual fathers give us new life in baptism and then feed us the spiritual milk of the gospel and the Eucharist. That's why Paul compares himself to a nursing mother. God's fatherhood likewise transcends all human notions of fatherhood and motherhood. Perhaps that's why the psalm chosen for this Sunday includes one of the rare biblical images of God's motherly care. His only Son has shown us the Father coming to gather his children as a hen gathers her young. We're all brothers and sisters, our Lord tells us today. And all of us, even our spiritual fathers, are to trust in him, humbly, like children on our mother's laps. This is Scott Hahn for Breaking the Bread.
Breaking the Bread is a production of the St. Paul Center for Biblical Theology. If you'd like to receive written copies of Dr. Hahn's reflections on the Sunday Mass readings, you can contact us by email at staff@salvationhistory.com or call us at 740-264-9535. That's 740-264-9535.
Shepherd me, O God, beyond my wants, beyond my fears, from death into life. God is my shepherd, so nothing shall I want. I rest in the meadows of faithfulness and love. I walk by the quiet waters of peace. Shepherd me, O God, beyond my wants, beyond my fears, from death into
Gently you raise me and heal my weary soul. You lead me by pathways of righteousness and truth. My spirit shall sing the music of your name. Shepherd me, O God, beyond my wants, beyond my fears, from death into life.
Though I should wander the valley of death, I fear no evil, for you are at my side. Your rod and your staff, my comfort and my hope.
Shepherd me, O God, beyond my wants, beyond my fears, from death into life. You
Okay. Become Catholic, Marty.
I knew you were going to have some nice little remark about that guy.
Well,
Penned
it
by
should be.
Marty Hagen, I think was a Lutheran. I don't know his situation now. Maybe he did convert. But he certainly is drawing from the Catholic funds in terms of being in the hymnals
Yeah,
and all that goes with it,
He's
selling
made a,
CDs
he's
and
made a
music.
good living off of the Catholics.
It's a beautiful setting of Psalm 23, though. Everybody knows it and loves it.
So the Texas Rangers are the World Series champions.
Is that right? Are they the ones from Dallas?
The Dallas area, Dallas-Fort Worth.
Okay.
I didn't know this. My sister texted me this morning, and I guess there was an article she read on one of the Catholic websites that every year in June, Major League Baseball has gotten pretty woke. They have LGBTQ
Nights,
nights and things.
parades, and
The
nonsense.
Texas Rangers were the only Major League Baseball team to refuse to do that.
Well, good for them.
And
Well,
so
then,
now they're World Series champions.
see, God rewards us.
So I'm not saying, but perhaps,
Certainly didn't hurt.
perhaps.
Well, good for them.
I mean, I've been a baseball fan all my life, and why do you have to have something like that? They used to have ladies' days. Remember that? They'd have ladies' days at the
Like
ballpark.
what, a half prize?
Yeah, the
or-
ladies would get in for 50 cents or something.
Yeah, okay. This was a long time ago.
No, well, I know, but it was like Ladies' Day. They would
Yeah.
call it Ladies' Day, and like the men would bring the women, folk.
And
you know.
now, can you imagine what would show up if you?
But people would be offended by that today, if they
Yeah.
had Ladies' Day.
Oh yeah,
But they can have this other thing, this Pride Day. So it doesn't,
right. And why do you have to pull in ideologies, politics, if you want to call it, personal,
I mean, they don't have Heterosexual Day. I mean, it's just
or any other like a Catholic day?
they went woke. They went woke, except for the Texas Rangers, who are now World Series champions. So they won the World Series.
Well, good for them.
No, I mean,
Although
not
we do,
saying
yeah, we do like Arizona.
if this is Texas. Oh, we were
I
rooting
know.
for Arizona.
At first,
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like, oh, let's root for Arizona,
because it
only
was
because
meant-
we like to go there.
Yeah, we figured if we had to choose between Texas and Arizona, we were rooting for Arizona to
But
win.
now that we know this little known fact,
Well, now, let's see what happens. Of course, I'm still a Yankee fan, but,
I've never visited at any length Texas, and of course, it's huge. Once you didn't go. I guess I took Angela. Anthony
Anthony
had
was down there, right?
a performance and
Yeah.
a premiere of something super, super south. We
Mm-hmm.
were almost in Galveston. As a matter of fact, I think we visited Galveston for one free day, but the other day was his performance
Mm.
right there on the mainland. And I just remember like flying in and then to drive to that location. It just seemed like a vast, long drive. And you'd see these huge ranches with everything was oversized, giant gates, and the driveway would be 3 miles, and you'd see a gargantuan mansion in the distance and all the barns, and everything was huge. And even at the airport, like they would be selling candies and things like jelly beans. They weren't normal jelly beans. They were bigger than a half
Everything's
dollar.
bigger in Texas.
Everything was big, grand style.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I always wanted to go to San Antonio,
San Antonio.
Riverwalk.
There's a lot of Catholic presence in
Yes.
Texas because of
Yes.
the Mexican influence and things.
Mm-hmm.
I've never really been. I don't think I've ever, other than a layover on a flight, I've never. And we've driven through it,
Mm-hmm.
going to Phoenix from the East Coast, and back
Yeah, I don't
across
have
the
much
Panhandle.
recollection of that.
I just remember long stretches of road with nothing.
Right.
Although I did, Texas has the most interstates of all the states in the country, the most interstate highways.
Well, it's also, acreage compared to the other states. It's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah. I learned that on Jeopardy.
See, you learn on Jeopardy and you learn on Catholic.
You
Radio.
do learn on Catholic radio. But yeah, there's probably a lot of, we've talked about having a pilgrimage going to the California shrines. The
missions.
missions.
Mm,
You probably could do something similar to that in Texas if you go down, parts of more so southern Texas, I would imagine. Probably have the same thing, but the California missions would be fun to start, like in San Diego, and work your way up to San Francisco.
I would love to do that. And again, it's mainland. It's easy to fly. You're not going overseas.
Hmm.
Could be done.
But then would it after a while, they all be the same?
Well, they will look, those Franciscan missions. But again, they're in different parts. Maybe one is up like Big Sur and you're overlooking the ocean, and others are more like in the town.
I've been to the Santa Barbara mission. That's a big one.
I think scenically there would be so many beautiful things. And then
Capistrano.
maybe,
You go to Capistrano.
right, and they each have their own, special history
Mm-hmm.
and stories, and maybe someone's having a concert. I mean, you could look for things to make it,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit more variable between all the missions, different places to eat.
That would be a fun. And I wonder if you could stay at them,
That I don't
like
know.
make your accommodations at the mission itself.
I don't know if they have retreat houses.
We'll have to look into that
Yeah.
because that would be fun. We did go to the one in Tucson in Arizona. There's two steeples, but one steeple is missing.
Right.
I forget the
That's
name of that.
Famous.
Yeah, it's a famous one. I can't think of the name of it. Not that famous, I guess, if we can remember the name of it is. But the photograph of it is pretty famous.
Right. It's on calendars.
And that one was
such.
down in the Tucson area.
Right. Yeah, that was beautiful.
And there's a little one we always go to when we go to Phoenix.
Oh my gosh, it's so tiny. It's
In the little
probably-
area of Guadalupe. Was it Guadalupe? The area, the Mexican part? Is that where it is?
south of Phoenix, right up against the mountains.
It's a little section of Phoenix they call Guadalupe. And in fact, when we lived out there, we went there on a Saturday, and literally people were living in these adobe huts.
Right. It was a settlement when they crossed in, again, coming from the southern border, and they nestled right there in South Phoenix, early days, the mission, and the, very, very religious. The first thing they do is build a church, and then they manage to live around it. And that was one of those churches where
Man.
and then the gentleman's, it's either his grandson or great-grandson is still the caretaker of the property, and he lives next door. It can't be the size of this studio.
Yeah.
3 or 4 pews and very decorative, a lot of statues. People will come and put pictures and flowers and pray, and it's just, there's a lot to look at and a lot to see.
It's interesting when you compare like the Southwest and California with the missions and the mission churches to the East Coast, where there was the European influence and all the ethnic ghettos, like the Italian section, the Polish section, and the massive churches that they built.
Yeah, huge structure.
Huge structures and
like
beautiful.
they would have had in Europe.
Yes.
Well, there's Allegheny Avenue as you're approaching Philadelphia. And it's a great street to go up if you're maybe visiting the St. John Neumann Shrine, very close to there.
on 5th and Girard.
Right. And right before Girard is Allegheny Avenue, and you make a right off of Interstate 95 and just go up Allegheny. And there are 3, what you would call these, cultural churches.
Yeah.
There's a German church, an Italian church, and a Polish church.
You can see the steeples from the highway, right? I remember
Right.
seeing
Oh,
it.
you just look to the right and you can see them. And then there's Polish bakeries, Italian bakeries. It's a very ethnic neighborhood
Yeah.
where those people lived and would walk to church. And the Stations of the Cross, like in the one, I think they're in the native language. Interesting.
And in New York, in the Italian little Italy, which is now very little, not a lot of it, but Mulberry Street is pretty much still Italian. The old St. Patrick's Cathedral is there, which is an old church where my grandparents were married there.
Do you know there are catacombs there, just like they have
Oh, yeah,
in
you were
Rome?
telling me that.
There are catacombs, and they do a candlelight tour. I tell you, for a day trip, that would be wonderful. Go into Little Italy. Have
Enough
the
for me. That's
tour.
good enough for me.
Yeah. Have the tour of the catacombs, see the church,
Mm-hmm.
and then, my goodness, all those restaurants. You could shop a couple of streets. And, of course, Chinatown surrounds it and bleeds into it, what used to be Little Italy. But there are still a couple of streets
Oh,
that
yeah.
are very festive.
Yeah. Up in the Bronx, there's Arthur Avenue, which is very Italian.
Really?
And all kinds of restaurants and delis and bakeries and things. Arthur Avenue is still very,
What a
very
nice
Italian.
day. Now, imagine going to Old St. Patrick's and then the St. Patrick's.
Yes.
Or
Well, do you remember when we were first beginning our work here at the Apostolate, and I had written to the rector of St. Patrick's, and I can't think of his name, but I wrote to him, because this is over 20 years ago, could we go into the crypt at St. Patrick's where Bishop Sheen was entombed, because it was not open to the public.
No, still not.
Still is not. And he said yes. And we went, you and I, and we brought the 3 children, and we went into the city. But we met him in the rectory. And we didn't go outside, but from the rectory, we went downstairs. So there was like a tunnel to the crypt.
Right.
Where then Bishop Sheen was entombed. Now he's in Peoria, but his body was entombed there.
With other
to pray at his tomb as we began our work.
Yeah.
But we didn't go outside. We went from the rectory down through a little tunnelway into the crypt where other bishops of New York and cardinals are buried. But that was an experience.
The underground.
Yeah, and I remember one time after that, probably a couple of years after that, we had not yet gotten our station, and I was in the city for. Actually, they were having a tryouts for like a contest to be a Yankee announcer at Mickey Mantle's restaurant in Central Park, and it was a contest, and so I went to audition. I thought, what the heck?
Right, and it was just like to do one game.
It was to
right?
be do an inning of the Yankee game, with the broadcasters. So I did. I on my way. I was very early into the city, so on my way, I was going up Fifth Avenue. I said, "Oh, St. Pat's. I'll stop here."
Say a little.
And there was a parking space right there.
How convenient!
Right next to the. And I stopped and I went in, and I prayed at in the back of the cathedral, where you would go downstairs to the crypt, because it is open. You can't go down; it's roped off, but it is open. There actually is an adoration chapel.
Right, there's another small chapel,
so
just like at the Vatican.
That's right. So I went and spent some time in adoration, prayed at Sheen's tomb, getting ready. Okay, now I got to get up to Mickey Mantle's place for the audition. And I go outside the cathedral, and my car had the boots on it. I was parked. Those boots so you can't move?
Yes, they had you.
So it was... so I'm thinking maybe this is after I went to Mickey Mantle's, because I'll tell you what happened. There was a note saying you had to go down to over to the west side and pay the fine, which is like $350.
Yes.
And then get your way back to where your car is, and then they send somebody to come and take the boot off.
It's an all-day affair.
It is.
Yeah,
it must have been after my thing. Yeah, it must have been after my thing. But I thought, Lord, I stopped here to pay spend some time with you, and my car gets booted.
That parking, it's impossible.
Actually, there was a sign there. I guess I didn't see. It was loading zone only.
Oh.
So that's
One
why
does have to read the signs.
That's why there was nobody parked there.
I'm telling you, I'm supporting the city of Philadelphia with all the tickets that I had gotten a boot once also, and I was parked
in Philadelphia.
Yes. And they have all these different signs. So from certain hours, you can park, or you have to park on the opposite side. Certain hours, there's no parking. By 4 p.m., it starts at valet.
Can't park between these signs between 2 and 4.
Oh, and you'll see the police or even the ticketing agents. I says, can you just unravel this for me? Can I park here? And we don't understand these signs. But I had a boot on my car, and I had a performance that night. So I don't know what brought me to Philadelphia, but on my way back, midway from Philly to where we live in Bucks County, there was a cabaret that I was accompanying, Northeast. And here I was dealing with this boot, and I called them. I said, I have a situation. I'm in Philadelphia. I had to go all the way down by the airport, like some kind of shipyard, and pay an exorbitant. And I don't even know, did I take a taxi? In those days,
I took a taxi to the west side and back. They wouldn't even drive me back. I had to take a taxi both ways.
Yeah, I must have,
because before the Uber days.
Right. And, so the subways don't go to those kind of funny places.
Yeah.
And I walked into that cabaret, I think 5 minutes. I said, don't panic. My book is in my hand. I'll be there. And it was like 5 of, kick off.
They get you coming and going, as my mother used to say. But so maybe a nice day trip into the city would be not Philadelphia. We can do Philadelphia too, because there are shrines down there too. This St. Catherine Drexel is at the cathedral now, and St. John Neumann is not far from there.
A lot of people haven't been to New York in a long time. I was talking to a couple of women at church, and they're afraid to go in. Since the pandemic, we haven't been there since before the pandemic, and the city has changed a little bit. But with a group, an organized group like this. To go in, and they take you right. The bus will take you right where you need to go in Little Italy and right to the door of St. Patrick's. You're not doing the subways, the trains, and all that goes with it.
Yeah.
And a lovely day of prayer and enjoyment.
Yeah, it would be nice. Old St. Patrick's, where the baptism scene in The Godfather was also filmed, where my grandparents were married back in the early 1900s.
It's interesting you should say this and how we got on this conversation. This morning I was at church and someone handed me like a small postcard. And it's after the fact, but they said, we were there at Old St. Patrick's
Oh, yeah?
just this past Saturday. And
Oh.
they said, you would have enjoyed this. And it was a program, it's called Unbound, and steps to really get deeply rooted in your Catholic faith. And many of you, especially we're preaching to the choir here, you are. But can you deepen that? Can you go further? Can you really, really lock in that relationship with
Who runs
Jesus?
that, the Friars?
Siniscalco is the last
Siniscalco?
name of Father Giuseppe Siniscalco. He's from Norwalk. Is that Connecticut?
Yes.
But they go all over Miami. They've been to Atlantic City. Now they were in New York. They said, we'll come to your parish. And 5 keys to, deepening your relationship. They said for Lent, it would be very, very powerful. And it's a one-day retreat, like 9 to 4,
Yeah.
10 to 5, something like that. So I didn't bring the card in with me, but I want to read more about it. And I thought, this sounds perfect
Pretty neat.
for Lent.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah. But Advent's coming soon, so
Right.
got to do something for
Oh,
Advent.
one step at a time.
That's right. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back, and Joseph Gonzalez is going to join us and talk about the new book called Guadalupe and Flower World Prophecy. Very interesting topic. So you stay where you are, my friends. There's more to come right here on Friday Live. Don't go away.
We gather together to ask the Lord's blessing. He chastens and hastens His will to make known. The weak and oppressing now cease from distressing. Sing praises to His name. He forgets not His own. Beside us to guide us, our God with us joining, whose kingdom calls all to the love which endures. So from the beginning, the fight we were winning. You, Lord, were at our side. All glory be yours. We all do extol you, our leader triumphant, and pray that you still our defender will be, that your congregation escape tribulation, your name be ever praised. O Lord, make us free.
Okay, well, welcome back, friends. Joseph Gonzalez is a composer for award-winning films, TV shows, stage productions, and concerts. His music has been performed at Carnegie Hall, the Sydney Opera House, the Walt Disney Concert Hall, the Vatican, and other prestigious venues. A 30-year Hollywood veteran, his composing credits include the Academy Award-nominated feature documentary Colors Straight Up, the Emmy Award-winning Made in L.A., and the Peabody Award-winning six-part miniseries Latino Americans. He has conducted the Bulgarian National Radio Symphony Orchestra for his score in the Imagine Award-winning PBS landmark documentary Children of Giant. He's also composed the score to Quentin Tarantino's Curdled. And in his new book, written with his, I assume, wife, Monique, Guadalupe and Flower World Prophecy, it's an exciting new interpretation of American prehistory, laying the groundwork for a prophetical reinterpretation of the Guadalupe narrative. So we want to welcome to the program Joseph Gonzalez. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim and Cheryl. Happy to be here.
Happy to have you here.
It's a pleasure to have you.
And as I'm reading the description here, Joseph, first of all, congratulations on all your success as a composer. We know that it's a great blessing to have that beautiful talent and to be able to use music to enhance the beauty of certain films and TV shows and documentaries. So thank you for that, and congratulations on that. But in this book, you talk about the Flower World Prophecy. I was just saying I've never heard of that. Maybe give us a little background on what exactly that is.
Okay. The Flower World Prophecy, probably the best way to explain it is to go into the actual narrative between Guadalupe and St. Juan Diego that started December 9th, 1531. As Juan Diego is going to Mass early that morning, he passes Tepeyac Hill, and he hears this beautiful music, and he sees these wondrous sights, and he's so startled that he says, "Where am I? Could I be this place that our ancient ancestors spoke of, the flower world paradise in the land of heaven?" Well, in our book, we go into a real detailed breakdown of the language that he was speaking at the time, and actually Guadalupe spoke back to him. It's called Nahuatl. That would have been the indigenous language that he was speaking at the time. So when he's referring to the flower world paradise, he uses the term in Xochitlalpan, in Tonacatlalpan. Now, with these words, he ties himself to an ancient belief system that is now being explored by archaeologists, anthropologists, and linguists. And they coin it flower world. And basically what this is ancient Mesoamerican man's yearning for a paradisal afterlife in a place saturated with music and beauty. So this belief system started in the Americas at its inception, and it actually goes back, scholars say that it goes back to the middle formative Olmec period, which puts it around 1500 BC. Oh, wow. So the reason why it ties in is because when they were developing, the people the scholars that came up with this hypothesis, the flower world hypothesis, they were basing it on the collected songs of indigenous groups, not only in Mesoamerica, but also the American Southwest. And what this one linguist did, her name was Jane Hill, she realized that they were all speaking about this floral, religious afterlife, saturated with music, as I said. And they actually start talking about these collected songs that were gathered by the Franciscan friars after the fall of the Aztec Empire. And all these flower songs, they call them flower songs, they actually use that term, in Xochitlalpan, in Tonacatlalpan, the flower world paradise, the exact same phrase that Juan Diego uses at the beginning of the narrative. So by him using these words, Juan Diego, he's tying the account to this belief system. So we kind of use that as the starting point to be able to say that there's much more to this narrative than meets the eye. We can actually see certain concepts that start at the beginning of Mesoamerican civilization that develop over the years, and eventually they turn into these flower songs. And I can go into that a little bit, but that's kind of just an overview of why it's tied into this concept called flower world.
You know, it paints such a beautiful picture in my mind. I'm a little bit of a visual learner. And so the
Yes.
words right away transfer to these fields of colorful flowers and a perfect sky that you can almost smell them. Of course, music is accompanying the entire background. It's just so expressive, and you would imagine maybe could that be what heaven looks like? But I love how all this was even before Christ. I mean, I
Yes.
think that and that it's just being unfolded now, some of these discoveries.
It's really pretty amazing because one of the primary collections of these flower songs, it's in a volume. There was about 180 known what they call Aztec flower songs, and 90 of them are in this one volume called the Cantares Mexicanos, or the songs of the Mexica, the songs of the Aztecs. And these songs fall in a genre called flower and song. And what is so beautiful, exactly what you just said right now, Cheryl, is that they depict this beautiful floral afterlife where the flowers are glistening like diamonds, and there's iridescent rocks that shine like jade, and there's these beautiful flowers, these hummingbirds and butterflies that are all around, and even the animals, they're non-threatening, and one of the poems says they have happy hearts,
Oh,
and it's just really, really beautiful the way in which this is depicted. And to kind of give some spoilers, in this particular song that we give a full analysis in our book, it's called "The Origin of the Songs," or Cuica Pecayot in Nahuatl. It brings up these two beautiful birds. This is the ancient poem that we're talking about right now, not the Guadalupe account. They bring up two birds. They're called the Tinitzcan, or the Trogon bird, or the Coyototot, which is the jingle bell bird. Now, this may blow some of your listeners' minds away, but these exact same two birds are mentioned at the beginning of the Guadalupe narrative.
oh wow.
When Juan Diego gets close to Tepeyac Hill, he hears these two birds singing, the exact same birds that are found in these ancient song poems. So it is. It's this flower world paradise.
Oh, did we lose
Did
you?
we lose you, Joseph?
Juan Diego references at the beginning of the Guadalupe account.
And it's no wonder that these things, and that's a small thing, which becomes huge, as you mentioned, the two birds. Are they almost God's signs to the indigenous people that to believe, to convert? This is no coincidence. How could BC, these two birds were in the poem and in the song, and now they appear again at the miracle of Our Lady of Guadalupe and the Tilma? I mean, would you say that these things are supposed to happen to help the people be astounded and awed into believing in Christianity?
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, we explain in our book, we say that God uses prophecy, but especially in Catholic thinking, that can turn into different ideas such as prefigurement, metaphors, symbology, or also typology. And it's not only this place, which we refer to as the flower world paradise, but it's so many other concepts. For example, the flowers, specifically the four-petaled flower. That was a concept that started from the very beginning of Olmec civilization. It ties to this concept called the axis mundi, where you have the four directions of the earth, north, south, east, and west, but in this case, it's the four lobes of a flower. Now, the middle point of this axis mundi, according to ancient Mesoamerican mind, would go up to heaven, and of course, it would go down into the underworld. But going up to heaven would reach this flower world paradise. So there was a direct relation to the four-petaled flower being a transcendental. It would be transcendent. It would connect heaven and earth. And the thing about it is that in these flower song poems, the primary metaphor is that of a singer who wants to gather these flowers in his tilma so he can show them to the lords and princes. Now, anybody who's aware of the Guadalupe narrative will recognize the parallels here. And we're saying that all these different elements, that when Juan Diego was gathering those flowers, he was actually gathering ultimate truth, because the four-petaled flower, having this connection, was not only connection to divine beauty, but also ultimate truth. So when Juan Diego was gathering these flowers, which is also, of course, in the earlier song poems, he was gathering the truth of existence and of all life. And that these concepts that are in these, not only in flower world, but in these Aztec song poems, was able to form a bridge of understanding. It was able to open up a pathway where the indigenous were able to see God was at work. He was trying to speak to them all along by putting or embedding concepts into their culture, which would eventually find a fulfillment in the Guadalupe encounter of 1531.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And when we think of Juan Diego and Guadalupe, of course, we think of the tilma, and we think of our Blessed Mother's image on the tilma and the roses that when he unfurled the tilma, the roses that appeared. Are there any other signs or symbols or references in the tilma itself? Cheryl was saying earlier before the program that there was something that...
I thought I read an article not too long ago, something about music was embedded in the tilma as they were unraveling things. And it's not a good explanation, and it's a foggy recollection of the article. Does that ring any bells for you?
Right. We've heard of that before, but I'd like to kind of give you a really good kind of zinger here. Is that I don't know if you've known, but there is a four-petaled flower on the Guadalupe image, and it's actually over her womb, the four-petaled flower. And the reason why this is so significant, because as I just told you before, the axis mundi, the four-petaled flower in the north, south, east, and west, it's actually a three-dimensional model of a multi-dimensional reality. So when you're looking at it as a three-dimension, you're seeing the earthly plane, but you're also seeing this vertical axis that goes up to heaven. So now if you turn that to its side, and now that it's a two-dimensional image, as it is on the tilma, you can actually, if you look at the center point, you could imagine this vertical axis, which is now on its side, is going to eternity. It's actually, you're seeing through the four-petaled flower to the vertical axis, which is, of course, taking you. It's acting something like a portal to ultimate beauty, ultimate divinity, ultimate truth. And what the case that we make in our book is we say that Jesus is the flower of truth. The main reason is because, and I haven't gotten around to what a lot of these poems say. Let me just give you kind of a quick overview of it. The singer in these songs wants to find these flowers because the flowers are the key to entering the flower world paradise. The thing, though, is that the singer never actually finds the flowers, and he laments that he was unable to go into the flower world paradise. So he's saying, and the reason he's given is he says, I'm not worthy to enter the flower world paradise because I'm afflicted, I'm with sin. But there is a way out. The God of far and near, it's referred to in Nahuatl as Intloquenahuaque. It actually says this in the poetry. It's amazing. It says, only the God of far and near can make you worthy to go to this flower world paradise. And let's fast forward to the Guadalupe encounter. When Guadalupe, the Blessed Virgin Mary, addresses herself of who she is, she uses 5 terms. The very first term she says, I am the mother of the one true God. But then she says, I am the mother of the God of far and near, in Intloquenahuaque. She uses the exact same term that echoes, that mirrors these earlier song poems, which of course means the one who can make you worthy. You see the connection here? So in this earlier knowledge, Intloquenahuaque makes you worthy. The Guadalupe is the mother of the God of far and near, the one who can make you worthy to enter the flower world paradise. So we think that all these concepts would have had a huge impact on the indigenous of the time of the conquest or the appearance of Guadalupe.
Hence, so many conversions, I'm sure.
Millions.
And we've been talking with Joseph Gonzalez. The book is called Guadalupe and the Flower World Prophecy, published by Sophia Institute Press, my friend. And, of course, we're coming up to these beautiful feast days next month of St. Juan Diego and also the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. So a wonderful purchase and a wonderful book to have and to give as gifts. Christmas is coming as well. SophiaInstitute.com is their website. And Joseph, thank you so very much for sharing this. I'm sure there's so much more we could talk about. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but the book will tell the whole story. So we encourage our listeners to take a look at that.
All right, Jim and Cheryl, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
God bless you for all your work. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. All right, friends, you stay where you are. We're going to take a break and be right back. Don't go away. There is certainly more to come right here on Friday Live.
Father Benedict Groeschel.
I want to welcome you, if you're not familiar, with the wonderful world of the gifts of the Holy Spirit. I think of the great faith of the immigrants from Europe, Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox, Jewish, the immigrants from Asia, and how they went on with great courage and determination. If you go visit this Ellis Island in New York City, you'll see endless pictures of faces marked by faith and courage and trust in God. That's the work of the Holy Spirit. What will America become if it makes it impossible for the Holy Spirit to work here because of untruth and self-indulgence and paganism?
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
Hello, I'm Bishop David O'Connell, the Bishop of the Diocese of Trenton, and this is a Eucharistic moment. Pope St. Paul VI wrote an encyclical on the Holy Eucharist entitled Mysterium Fidei. There he reminded the Catholic Church of its consistent teaching on the Eucharist. The Catholic Church has held firm to this belief in the presence of Christ's body and blood in the Eucharist, not only in her teaching, but in her life as well, since she has at all times paid this great sacrament the worship known as latria, which may be given to God alone. As St. Augustine says, it was in his flesh that Christ walked among us, and it is his flesh that he has given us to eat for our salvation. But no one eats of this flesh without having first adored it. Not only do we not sin in thus adoring it, but we would be sinning if we did not do so.
My family left the church because of a very negative experience with a specific priest, and that took my whole family away from going to church for a long period of time. There were other Catholic churches, and there were great Catholic churches and great priests, but we stopped because of that one specific instance. And in a way, I was cheated out a big part of my journey in my life because we weren't in the church. In life, it seems like we're always enslaved to something, and I think that's basically what our culture is all about right now. Is we are enslaved to power or to greed or to wealth or to lust. But there's a true freedom to not be enslaved, but to attach ourselves to God and to be free. My involvement in the church, my relationship with God is who I am. It's what gives me my identity. Thank God I'm home.
If you've been away from the Catholic Church for whatever reason, we invite you to take another look. Visit CatholicsComeHome.org today.
All right, welcome back, friends. A couple minutes left before we're going to leave you, but you always wanted to go to Guadalupe, but you never got there.
I did. You know, the Diocese of Metuchen ran a trip a couple of years ago, maybe pre-pandemic, I don't know. But they took a huge amount, and I forget what it was, an anniversary of something, maybe that anniversary or something. With
well, I think because isn't Our Lady of Guadalupe the patroness of the diocese, or no?
Or of America, no?
America, sure. Yeah. Well, not of the Americas.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
you could do
anyway,
that.
It was
Ranger.
You know, it's very easy to go. You could do it in 5 days. There's a couple of outlying churches and a couple of other things, but it's not like a European 9-10 day sort of affair. You could do 4 or 5 days very easily, and it's very inexpensive.
You remember Father Marian Zalecki, God rest his soul? He was a
Yes,
wonderful
from
Polish priest from the Shrine of
Częstochowa.
Częstochowa. Many, many years ago, when I was at another radio station over there in that area, and I guess I was praying for something. And he used to come on my program maybe once a month and he just would tell stories, wonderful priest. But it was the Feast of Our Lady of Guadalupe. And he came over and he brought with him a stole, a priest's stole that he got in Guadalupe. The Bishop of Guadalupe gave it to him. He said he was admiring the tilma and not the tilma, and then, well, yes, admiring the tilma, but then also the priest, the bishop had a stole.
He was admiring the stole.
And the bishop gave it to him. So he brought it into the studio to show me. And he unrolled it across the table. And I got this enormous aroma of roses. And I said, wow, what'd you do? Like spray perfume on it? He said, what? What are you talking about? I said, it's the roses. I smell roses. I don't smell anything. I said, it's all over the room.
Wow.
And he was saying,
oh, what a
I
blessing.
don't smell. And then he went to another person in the station there. Do you smell this? Smell this. And the guy says, okay, I don't smell anything. And I just kept smelling all these roses.
Oh, how
and
beautiful.
then he said, that's the answer to your prayer. There's your answer right there, he said.
Oh.
So,
and he would always bring you a babka.
He would bring me a babka.
Guadalupe or not, he would bring you a good Polish babka.
Because the Polish women who go to the Shrine of Częstochowa would always bring him a babka. He was loaded with babkas.
Yeah.
But I thought, I've never had that type of, where he just unrolled it. It's like someone just took a perfume bottle and started spraying all over the place.
How about that?
And it was from Guadalupe.
Well, we have this running theme here. Every time we come back on the air, we're talking about we should run a pilgrimage there. We should run a pilgrimage there. I think we have the travel bug.
Well, there's a little blurb in our newsletter that'll be coming out later this month about the pilgrimage to EWTN.
Mm-hmm.
That we had a wonderful time down there with 20-some people, and
sometimes you
save the money by bypassing a travel agent and doing it yourself.
That's right. I absolutely can. But the bonding that takes place, and we've had a few on the trip that says, wow, in my area, I just don't have, people like you guys. And she was talking about our 28, just to talk about things and, bounce things off of and share and support each other. There was just, that particular group was just so unique like I've never seen before. And just, I think, on the same spiritual level and prayerfulness and just really a loving group. And there's still, we have this group text set up and somebody will send a inspirational message or a video or a picture or a prayer and everybody's commenting. It's like, we're family. We are such, hard, fast family. Yeah. But the fact that across the miles, because you're talking from Cape May to Flemington to Bucks County, we had people from all over and they said, it's just such a special group.
Yeah. Well, I want to go back to Italy, so let's go. All right, well, we're going to go. It's end of our time with you today, so we hope you have a blessed rest of your first Friday and first Saturday, and we will certainly be with you again, God willing, next Friday. I'll be with you Tuesday, God willing. Until then, have a great rest of your day.
God bless you. Enjoy your weekend.